digital night. Jim Bustle, he's guiding the light, unveiling mysteries of the unknown, UFOs and the alien zone. He's a man on a mission, exploring ancient secrets, it's his addiction. Debating, discussing with his loyal crew. Cosmic conversations, unveiling the truth.
Oh, there we go. The mic's up. So, dudes, welcome back to another episode. Yes, another day, another dollar, another day. But today, for people in the States, your cell phones weren't working. Quite a fucked up situation there. I'll get the background music going. There we are. Oh, yes, bless. Thank you. Yeah, fucking not good. Not good situation there. You know. Anyway, for people watching these VODs, thank you for continuing to watch the VODs. I am putting these on YouTube now. They're on YouTube, and I've been trying to find an editor. I was talking to some more people today, actually, about maybe trying to, get somebody to clip these up for me. I will pay, obviously. I know a lot of people on Twitch are really stingy. But I will be paying. So please, if anyone does any editing of IRL content, like just chatting content, hit me up, and I'd love to get some stuff clipped up and put it there, and see if we can get more people in on the conversation. But anyway, if you haven't followed, please consider giving me a follow. That's kind of all I'm really concerned about right now. I'm at 271 now. Shit, someone else unfollowed. Must have said something offensive. Oh well. So just try and keep it going, and any and all support has been greatly appreciated. So everyone, welcome everybody, by the way. Sauce, welcome. Rabbit, Digi, Lemon, DM Leak, welcome everybody. This evening wanted to talk about a couple things. It's very interesting shit. What's going on, the whole cyber attack thing, or whether it's due to a flare. I think it looks like it's probably due to cyber attack, which is unsettling, and I'll get into that and as to why, maybe. Also about Antarctica tonight, there's a Y-Files episode, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about that as well. And then also big news, there's a moon landing. So not necessarily related to UFOs, but the moon landing thing, listen, dark side of the moon shit, so I might talk a little bit about that too. But fuck the top. Without further ado, oh no, isn't that convenient, huh? Isn't that fucking convenient? The aliens went and tipped it over, huh? Yeah. They're troubleshooting, yeah. It probably landed. The aliens just went over and tipped it. That's what they do on the moon. There's no cow tipping. They just tip all the landers and stuff and fuck with us. God damn it. Oh, I don't want to start with Alex right now. I don't know if I can handle that. Interesting. Man, fuck yeah. Man, absolutely. For a coming dark age, yeah. The dark side of the moon, yeah. I don't know. Well, that's the thing, though, is there? Or maybe they're just hiding there. It's where the aliens have been hiding. I just wanted to comment on this, the hypocrisy here. I cannot describe how much I dislike, because hate is not a good word to use, because that gets you on some fucking CSIS list here, probably in Canada. I greatly dislike this, I was going to call him a man, but this guy, so much. This has been trending. It's have a beer with Trudeau. I think I'd rather drink my own fucking piss than have a beer with this guy. Like, no cap, right? Now look at this though. This is a funny thing. Tax on alcohol set to rise 4.7% in April, and then these idiots are promoting, whoever's behind his campaign, have a beer with Trudeau. It's just a little bit more expensive under him, but that's okay, because you can just engage in pointless, boring, mind-numbing conversation, right? Oh, I don't think he's like a guy that drinks beer, though. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. He's not a beer guy, right? He's one of those guys that like has a sip of whiskey. He's like, it's too hard for him. Oh fuck. Anyway, yeah. So the lander rolled during the landing. So the antennas are pointed the wrong way at best, or a thing crashed but didn't explode at worst. Holy shit! Isn't that crazy? Was it the Chinese that just landed successfully? So didn't someone just land without like a problem at all? Like, Jesus. Weren't the Americans like supposed to be at the tippy top of the whole like space race thing? Like, oh, I wouldn't be able to make a species who could adapt to that cold with drones. Maybe. Well, they're living in they're living in underground tunnels and stuff, and domes. They live in glass domes. Haven't you seen the Alex Collier videos where he goes through all the Dark Side of the Moon photos, and they're like these broken glass domes? That, or they're just rocks that Alex has very colorfully interpreted. Quite possibly just rocks, but I like that explanation better, that they're broken alien cities. That just sounds better. So, I mean, honestly, we don't know either way. So I would just say alien cities, because I like that. Yeah. It could very well be, man. Fuck. Speaking of which, speaking of being in a film, in a fucking Kubrick film. This, I thought I would just talk about this because I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was very interesting because what I'm going to bring up here, actually, where is it now? Oh, this. These wonderful people, but their insight, their wisdom, their intuition is just on another level. People at the WEF, they predict pandemics. They predict all kinds of crises that just happen. I mean, I've never seen anybody predict things with the level of accuracy that these people do. It's almost like they have a hand in doing these things. Like, my God, like, wow, you know? Yeah. Anyway, I'll read that in a second. But there's, I guess, all the hot topics going on today. So, back on Earth, FBI and Homeland Security urgently investigating whether AT&T outage was a cyber attack. A security expert tells DailyMail.com it has all the hallmarks of a hack. Thousands of Americans have been without cellular service for hours. You notice here, I'll pull up on Drudge here. This is kind of funny. Yeah. World is ending. They lose their cell service for a couple hours. World is ending. That's where we are now. The world ends. Very, very interesting. Solar flare hack. Some people say solar flare. Some people say solar flare, and then they did a test run of a hack to smoke screen the hack, and then they can blame it on the solar flare. It's like, that's we're going deep already, right? Like, yeah. Yeah, that's what they had said, Digi. That's not as fun though as either of these two options. So, and it pervaded beyond just AT&T, which I have up here as well. Pharmacies nationwide are also reporting outages in wake of cyber attacks. So that started to lead people into thinking that potentially this was an attack on the infrastructure. It's kind of weird that, like, why would you just do why would you attack AT&T? And it wasn't like a huge one. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just very, very strange stuff. Did the solar flare cause the AT&T outage to space weather expert weighs in? Essentially, he came to the conclusion, no. So, just to save us all time from having to read through this whole article. That's essentially the conclusion, yeah. But it seems unlikely. So what's more likely is a glitch in the software, or there was in fact a hack. Now, this is an interesting video. Okay, good. I was going to say, hopefully I got the a post that I was thinking about here. So her name is Catherine Herridge, and she's an investigative journalist, actually, for CBS. And they had fired her and seized all of her files, computers, and records, including information on privileged sources. And this was just somewhat recently that they did this. And now she had made this comment on CBS.
The event with high impact that's very hard to predict. There are a number of concerns that I have that factor into that. Not only this sort of enduring heightened threat level that we're facing, the wars in Israel, also Ukraine, and we're so divided in this country in ways that we haven't seen before. And I think that just creates fertile ground for our adversaries like North Korea, China, and Iran. And that's what concerns me most. Well, mine's a little dark. I just feel a lot of concern that 2024 may be the year of a black swan event.
I wonder why both presidential candidates about to go into old folks' homes. Who's gonna prop up the power structure, right? Not looking good. Yeah. Man, I know. What do we do? I don't know. Listen, I love duck. I love a good duck. If anyone's never cooked duck before, duck is the duck fat is almost better than the actual meat, but it's so good. Yeah. Oh, really? Oh my God. You gotta try duck. Yeah. Buddy, what's going on? Yeah. No. It's this so interesting, again, mainstream media outlet voices her concerns, loses her job, has everything confiscated that she owned. Very interesting. I don't know. Intriguing. So this is posted in 2021. So this is one of many warnings from the WEF that many of our critical infrastructure is susceptible to hacking, what they termed a cyber pandemic. So how would they protect it? Cyber attacks and infrastructure services are on the rise. Most recently, the Colonial Pipeline hack in the U.S. and the Public Health Service attack in Ireland. Hackers are exploiting the use of Internet of Things, which creates millions of new vulnerability points in critical infrastructure. Now, I mean, objectively not wrong, but, it's like, well, what would thwart an election in 2024 if there was a big enough disruption? And claiming, again, we are in the midst of a cyber pandemic in 2020 that accelerated transition towards remote working, and the software being used for these attacks has been easier to execute. Ransomware attacks have risen rapidly and continue to accelerate in 2021. They continue even further in 2024. And so... how to vaccinate your organization against the cyber pandemic. Interesting. Well, so they've been preaching that this is coming. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they'd even said this year was a year they thought that was extremely worrisome for these attacks potentially, just because of the presidential election, and there's a lot going on, a lot to lose. So, also a quote from I'm ready to be president. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, and, Joe, I think, as we all know, can't even probably put his shoes on by himself anymore, right? I don't think he can even go to the bathroom by himself. So I would just imagine that that at any point they're going to have to get somebody step in. I mean, I don't know what the fuck is going on with that. I'm just here for the memes, I guess, honestly. But Alex, look at this fuck. When he turned the fuck around. Yeah. There's Xi Jinping. Good Lord, winding him up. Winding old Joe up, right? God damn, we live in a simulation. And to further that point,
Director says China cyber attacks on U.S. infrastructure now at unprecedented scale. That's February 18th, 4 days ago. The most probable is the communist Chinese and Volt Typhoon Group. Now, the second suspects, because the Chicoms are attacking us, I think that probably is what it is. But the second group would be the globalists, the Klaus Schwabis, because they've been pre-planning that, and they're pretty much the same as the communist Chinese, which is pretty much the same as the FBI. It's all one big happy family up there at the top. America hating trash. But notice AT&T won't tell you. That's normally they tell you right away, don't they? Best evidence is it's a hole in a new security update for surveillance, a new NSA tool that they pushed 5 days ago that has holes in it. Because they put holes in it for MI6, Mossad, and other intelligence agencies to spy on us. Israel actually has the contract for 30 years to run that database. Oh yeah, it's not just the government spying on you. They let all the other governments. It's kind of like a gang rape. That's what they do to us in our privacy. And I believe the prime analysis is that through that security update, now the Chinese have gotten through. That's what most of the evidence points towards. Of course, no one else is saying that. That's probably what's going to end up happening, coming out. They just don't want to admit it's been exploited. That's it. As Vader says, they say, what is this? Oh, it could be smugglers. It could be, that's it. That's the rebel system.
Look at the fire and brimstone on the Infowars. Holy fuck, man. He has just become so much more unhinged as time's gone on. When they unbanned him off Twitter, that's when it just kind of started like spiraling further. Jesus Christ. Oh, well, he's embraced the fact that he's a meme. So, you know, again, yeah, FBI director says China cyber attacks on U.S. infrastructure now at an unprecedented scale. That's the article he was just mentioning. But, you know, very concerning. I was watching a video, a clip. I could actually probably pull it up. But it was Dr. Phil was on Joe Rogan a couple days ago. And Dr. Phil was talking about which something I never thought I'd hear Dr. Phil talk about, but he was concerned about all the farmland that Chinese nationals are buying up. And what was suspicious about it was that all the farmland coincidentally was very close to very large military bases in the U.S. It was pretty interesting actually. And he was like, "Yeah, that's a hell of a coincidence there." And I was like, yeah, that is kind of a big coincidence, isn't it, Phil? You know, anyway. Yeah, and he was like, why isn't anyone talking about this? I was like, yeah, good question. It's called lobbying, right? They get paid off, essentially. Everybody gets paid. Everybody gets a fat check. They go home to the ranch, and then they don't give a fuck in 30 years if there's some giant fucking, like, shit that goes down. So Alex Jones is the fictional after-school content we need in our lives. Absolutely, man. He lives that like crazy life, you know. He lives that crazy life. He knows those crazy things. He says those kinds of things that you would just never say, that you should never really say. So, let me see. Let's see. Oh yeah. So that is the second part to why Dr. Phil was on Alex Jones. That last year there were 30,000 illegal Chinese immigrants into the States, which a lot of whom supposedly, and how they measure this metric, were men. So that raised alarm bells as well, where he was like, and you know, I think he was pretty pretty balanced, and where he was like, you know, last thing I want to do is criticize people trying to get away from that fucked up government, because like I would want to, and it's true, but you have to be cognitive too that like that government, and unfortunately some of the people that support that government are kind of enemies of the West. Like that whole system is not a system that we want to replicate here or want to have here, although Klaus Schwab and all those dickheads definitely want that system they praise all the time that the Chinese have implemented. This dystopian fucking hell. So we had to be cognitive too that although there are lots of people probably trying to just get the fuck out of there could be an effort here maybe, which again for some reason seems to be you know, contentious, I guess, to talk about this, but that maybe there is some enemy trying to subvert, you know, the US, and maybe it's China, you know. Listen, that's kind of the big boogeyman out there, other than Russia. But China is really kind of the big one when you think about it. Because when you think about all of the phones that we use and where they're fucking made, they're all made in China, right? So, you know, TikTok too. That's another recent fad that has blown up all over the Western world. And there are legitimate, serious questions as to what's going on with that and what was the purpose of that. And is that some kind of psychological operation to try and get maybe on the phones of some diplomats' kids or high-ranking members of government in the United States, have their children have that on their phone connected to their Wi-Fi? It could be that fucked, unfortunately, you know? 2024 Army doesn't have to invade with weapons. They just cross the border and get a debit card. It's still happening, too. Yeah, that's a legitimate concern, right? And I think I speak Spanish, but it's not doing me a whole lot of good down here. We are getting a massive explosion of Chinese nationals crossing the border, from China, others from Turkey, others from Middle Eastern countries, some of them from adults all over the world. Yeah, Brett Weinstein, too, had gone over this recently. He went to, what's it called again? There's a pass in Mexico. This pass is where, again, everyone passes through to cross the border, and they had seen all the people, and they were observing the huge amount of Chinese immigrants coming across. And he was speaking with some of them, and he noticed that there was a serious hesitation for them in Mexico to communicate with anyone, any kind of Western person. Now, again, you know, there's a part of me that definitely feels for people trying to get out of that fucking situation there, because it's a hellhole. I've talked with people. Do you want to know? I forget what it's called. I've talked with people. I've known people that were from China, and just the heartbreak there of how fucked it is, and how they had to leave their homes and their families, and you know, some of their families are still there, but they're here. And a lot of them, I shouldn't say a lot, but a portion of them too, they're very scared here, because this is happening in Canada, by the way. Thanks, Justin, you fucking idiot. There were these like Chinese, like CCP police stations that were cropping up all over Canada. They were covert, but the purpose was to monitor Chinese nationals that were living here, right, on exchange programs or had recently immigrated. And they were keeping tabs on them. And they were even harassing people. And this was kind of covered up. Like, none of the mainstream news really covered it. It's true. They covered it very briefly. The federal government in Canada acknowledged it, and that it was a fucking problem. But they're just very concerned. It's a very concerning state, honestly. When you look into the CCP, there's lots of rumors, but there are rumors that they're called the Uyghurs in Western China. They're a Muslim Chinese group of people, and that they've been persecuted by the CCP and the government there for a long time. And there's rumors they have borderline concentration camps. Organ trafficking's huge there. It's like a literal nightmare scenario. I've read about it extensively over the years, and it's fucked. And I was gonna make in a comparison to, honestly, Germany in the 1930s, honestly, and it's very close to that, really, except it's communist, right? But it's a fucked place, and so people fleeing there, I don't blame them, but at the same time, just got to be careful, you know, and letting 30,000 people walk in is just really, it's beyond negligence. And that's kind of what they were talking about. Brett was on with Tucker talking about this. And he was saying it's to the point where, you know, it's beyond comprehension. This is just like negligence. And that's a whole different conversation, right? That there may be some campaign even to allow all of these people in. And you know, some of these people coming in have been given tickets, they've been given money to go wherever they want. And who's doing this? And we know in the States that the elections aren't completely secure, right? And that potentially somebody's trying to farm some voter base, right? To stuff some ballot boxes. Not that I see support really for either of those candidates, but, you know, just to maybe kind of try and secure any backlash that may happen with Trump supporters. Chinese, so I think it's called Uyghur here from concentration camps. Yeah, man, it's a fuck situation, and the fact that people don't talk about it right more is also just highlights how fucked things are. And I don't know, what is Twitch, is a portion of Twitch owned, right, by China? I don't know. Probably not something that they really want to be talked about on here either. Difficult conversations, right? But concerning stuff, you know. So anyway, Yeah. Kind of on this vein, I guess. Tiananmen, what? I wanted to play this. I just literally saw this while I was looking for the music to play, and I didn't even know what the fuck to think of this title here. Here, well, hold on. Kid Rock punched someone at Bohemian Grove. Shifting gears slightly, but not really, because we're talking about these globalist idiots who, are destroying the
Joe
West.
Rogan experience.
I've been down so many rabbit holes, so many 9/11 rabbit holes, so many, Bohemian Grove rabbit holes.
I went there
Skull and
once.
Bones.
I got kicked out.
Did you? You went to the Grove?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Why'd you get kicked out?
Fucking weird. Fucking weird. I punched a kid in the head.
You punched a kid in the head?
A kid.
Yeah.
Bohemian Grove?
Yeah, it turns out this fucking kid was an infiltrator. So then after that, I was kind of this hero. Like a year or two later, he'd come back. I was like, I'm not coming to your little fucking weird party out in the fucking woods. I was like, I went once. It ain't that cool.
So the infiltrator, what happened with you and the infiltrator?
Can you imagine being the Illuminati and then inviting Kid Rock to your fucking get together? Bob with the Bohemian Grove. Oh man. Holy fuck.
We're sitting on this fire.
Yeah, he
These
did.
They're kind of like tree houses or campsites, but they're really nice. Everyone.
Sorry, it's Moloch, Digi, which is this owl. And Kriegler, a Moloch is technically a Hebrew deity, is he not? Known, associated with human sacrifice. He's Mesopotamian deity too, as his origins there. So,
A private chef got
Really?
Yeah, you do share a room. Me and Jimmy John shared a room. That was fun. And I can't remember kids talking around this fire, and he just started popping that shit, and I just fucking went at him.
Oh.
Gave him a couple, helped him up. It's like, hey, we good? Well, I think, we weren't on great terms, but I think we had an understanding. It was just, one of those things. And then I couldn't go to the concert that night. I think Zach Brown or somebody was playing, like, you can't come.
My
And I had to
God.
sit home like I was in fucking timeout or something. I'm like, fuck this place.
Meanwhile, you're Kid Rock and you're getting left alone by these people with some fucking crazy person, and you defend yourself.
Fucking weird.
There's going to be a certain percentage of people that are just out of their fucking minds, and if you haven't vetted them, that's on you.
Hey,
Don't kick them out.
for all I remember, it could have been drunk shit or whatever. It wasn't the end of the world. It was a little tussle and a little hit the ground, maybe a punch here and there. It was like, then it was done. It wasn't like,
But it was a fight.
I guess
You're just a nice guy. You didn't beat him to death.
It was a tussle.
You're a nice guy. But it's how many people infiltrate that place? Because a bunch of people have filmed videos there now.
I have no idea.
Alex Jones was the first. Him and John Ronson. This is back before Alex Jones was persona non grata, and people would do legitimate journalists like John Ronson would do these things with them.
Not familiar.
You never seen that video of them in Bohemian
I've never heard
Grove?
of John Ronson.
John Ronson's a brilliant guy. He's what is his he's an author. He wrote that book, So You're Getting Publicly Shamed, about like social media shaming. He's an interesting guy. He's a very funny guy. But he went with Alex to Bohemian Grove, and they filmed these rituals. These people dressed like druids, and they're burning this effigy in front of a giant owl statue.
I was at the owl statue. This is fucking hilarious. So I'm there on day one, right? And we're drinking beers. Like, it's pretty laid back. There's some really cool talks. I remember this dude talking about shooting asteroids out that might hit the Earth in so many years, shit like that. I'm like, fuck, this is cool.
Oh,
But the
wow.
first day, it was the first.
Hold on, what? What are they talking about there, Kid Rock? Something about asteroids hitting the Earth?
Evening, and you gather around whatever the owl by this lake, if I remember correctly, which could be a little hazy. It was a long time ago. And like I've heard about this place. I'm like, this is some real secret ass shit, man. I can't believe I'm fucking here, right? And it's just a trove of celebrities, fucking everywhere you turn. It's just fucking A. So you go there, and I'm like thinking we're gonna hear some shit, right? They're about to introduce the first speaker, and I'm like, fuck, this is gonna be some shit. And they're like, and no offense against this guy, we consider him friendly. We have very good mutual friends, but they're like, ladies and gentlemen, Tony Danza. And I'm like, what? I'm like, come on, man. Who's the fucking boss? Tell them bitches. Which she would have just gone up there and been like, who's the boss, bitch? Like,
That's hilarious.
I was like, no fucking way, man. I was like, we came all the way to this secret ass shit. And I love Tony. Fucking love him. But I'm like, come on, man. I was like, they brought Reagan back from the dead and he's going to speak or hologram or some shit. Like,
You were hoping for some devil shit.
Fuck,
just some
man.
crazy shit
Yeah.
one way or the other. He was a very good speaker, I got to say, but
Maybe they toned it down. Maybe they toned
This
it
has to be
down
20
after
years
they've been
ago.
infiltrated. Oh, really?
I'm terrible with dates, but it's a long time ago.
Okay, because when Alex snuck in was like... Was this like the 90s?
2000. No, it's
Jamie?
2002.
Like when Alex Jones and John Ronson snuck into Bohemian Grove. That's when they first got that video. I want to say it was in the 90s. I want to say it was like 99 or something like
I
that.
did have some fun there, I got to say. It was fucking weird. I met like Paul Pelosi and his son
Oh, boy.
and like Chris Matthews. Like, you know, and,
Oh,
but I was
okay.
hanging out with them. We were having cool conversations.
That is
Kind of
cool.
weird. And then they asked me, like, I had to come play my guitar
Oh, no.
and, like, sing at one of these camp things. And I was like, I feel so used. I feel so dirty. Like, I don't do this shit, man. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's got to be weird. Hey, man, play us a song.
Well, it's kind
I can't. Yeah. Well, I guess they've gone down a couple pegs, maybe, right? Since the olden days when they had these really secret Illuminati conversations. Just a couple good old boys having some fucking brews there, just getting in fights. Kid Rock seems like the type of guy that would punch someone at Bohemian Grove. That's exactly correct, though, isn't it? He just says that, like, he's like that guy, like, 2 beer in, just starts getting fucking violent, like, at anything and everyone. Like, Pine Knob is what it's at. Interesting. He's got the eagle chain. My brother, Bob with the ba. Anyway, Jesus Christ. Fuck the meme. Moon landing. This is the actual, so there's no video of it, though, huh?
675 kilograms, but packs on weight when loaded with fuel. Odysseus uses composite helium tanks to pressurize
Yeah,
its
fuck.
liquid methane and liquid oxygen main engine that can throttle down to perform its final descent to the lunar surface in one continuous burn.
Intuitive Machines' IM-1 mission is supported by NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative, which allows rapid acquisition of lunar delivery services from American companies. The instruments on board advance capabilities
Trying to
for
find
science,
something in the background here,
exploration,
sorry.
and the commercial development of the moon. Commercial companies were challenged to come up with their own
buddy,
way
go
to
on.
design and fabricate a lunar lander and conduct operations. For this commercial mission, Intuitive Machines elected to support the communications between the spacecraft and Nova Control through its own private ground-based network. And it's not the first time Intuitive Machines used this network in deep space.
Well, that's right, Gary. NASA worked with Intuitive Machines to perform technology demonstration of this capability on NASA's Artemis 1 mission, which helped us verify the
Interesting.
network for
Intuitive
operational use during
mechanics.
this CLIPS
Okay.
mission. The Lunar Data Network, or LDN, uses
Um,
ground-based networks to communicate into
very
any
interesting.
situation.
DL activation, we have
Buddy, go on. Go on. No.
So we've tested it
No.
on the ground in a number of platforms, from helicopters to landers out here on the surface.
It's kind of like very sad that now we know it like may have failed, and like all this anticipation, all these people working on it. I imagine there's someone probably like crying right now who like fucking tried to work on this, and then the whole fucking
one of
thing
the
like
things
just
that we would
completely
really like to know is what the
got fucked.
how it comes back after they sent how it
Oh
looks back,
Jesus
how
Christ!
how
No,
long
go,
it takes to
no, go
process,
lay
and
down.
how it
Go
will
lay down. Go on.
help
No, 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 no,
find
no.
a solution to figure out the trajectory to go down to.
With 1 or 2 or 3 failures, this is still a very economical proposition. It's a risk posture which is more risk tolerant than NASA is accustomed to. There's not a single one of these companies.
So
that's
where do
going
they
to-
say that it?
and Nova C in the United
What
States
is
has
C?
landed on the moon at 5:23 p.m. Central Time today, February 22nd, 2024. Congratulations
Video
to
proof
Intuitive
needed
Machines
now.
on the successful landing.
All the flat earthers are like no, this isn't happening. What I was trying to find on the side was Alex Collier's talk on what's in the dark side of the moon. Now, actually, why I was trying to find it was because the photos of the dark side of the moon, there's some kind of obscure photos. There were I think there's only really one mission that went over, maybe two, that captured video. I think it was video and photographs of the dark side of the moon. And there's some obscure ones that hadn't really been showed to the public a whole lot, that like people like Ed Mitchell had gotten a hold of. And Alex had showed these in his slides, which was which was very very interesting. Oh, is this it here? It's a long talk. Oh yes, this is. Oh my fucking god, this is it. Supposed to land and close to the subpole. Oh, interesting. Okay. So here's the talk here. Now, obviously, I do just kind of want to go over this for a second. Like no one's even seen. Only 242 views on this. 1996 presentation. Oh, Alex. I'll just watch the intro and then I'll try and go through to some of the pictures that he was going over here, and we can maybe try and like see what's going on. Okay, he lost his ball again. Oh my fucking god! Just a second.
Thank you. I don't need that. Just turn that off. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank Global Sciences for inviting me here. Dean, I want to thank all of you for coming.
Holy fuck!
I'm wired.
Oh, I had that turned off when that happened. Fuck.
And I want to thank my wife, because if it wasn't for her, I would not be speaking any longer.
So, for people that don't know, again, who Alex is, Alex is a contactee. So, for people that don't know, you've got this spectrum of like bullshit where you go from like base ufology, right? Like stories about Roswell, like Stanton Friedman stuff. Then you go to abductees like Betty and Barney Hill, right? So, you know, I had a dream, I got abducted, and I went and worked with a psychotherapist, and they progressed me through these memories, and I was in a spacecraft. It's like, oh fuck. Then you've got, I consciously have been talking to aliens since I was 9 years old. They regularly pick me up on the weekends, and I go live on their ships for months at a time. That's contactees. So it goes from like very interesting, fairly grounded, right? Still like anecdotal evidence, to pretty woo, but you know, people of fairly sound mind recounting interesting stories, to complete like fucking woo. Alex is on the far right hand side of that spectrum. He's deep woo. I think Alex may be legitimately schizophrenic. Years of watching his content. So anyway, with that in mind,
I want to just give you a brief background on how this all started for me. I grew up, for the most part, in Elk Grove Village, Illinois, and my grandparents had a cabin up in Woodstock, Michigan, which is in northern Michigan. And we were up there in August of 1964, and I experienced missing time. We had gone out to play into the fields, and I laid down in the tall grass, and I can remember throwing chestnuts out of the way to create a place for myself to lay. And when I fell asleep, and when I woke up, it was almost going on 9 o'clock. And I remember getting up and running back to the picnic area where the family was, and there was a police dog, a Michigan State police car there, and my folks and cousins, because it was kind of a family thing because everybody goes back to school. And I got the tar licked out of me for disappearing, and I told them where I had been, and they didn't believe me, so I took them back to where I was with the flashlights, and sure enough, there was my body imprint, and they swore they had been all through that area looking for me. It wasn't until age 14 that I actually understood what had happened then. I went to bed. It was just a normal night. It was in October. When I woke up and there were two men looking down at me. And they were human beings, except they have no hair. And their skin is light blue, or at least Morine, the very large one. His skin is light blue. Paseus is the elderly one, and I'll give you a brief background on them. Has turned white because of his age, but they are blue-skinned. They say that they are our cousins, and that we actually have some of their genetics inside of us. They originally came from Lyra, as all human life did in our galaxy. Human life does exist in other galaxies as well. And there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on in Alex's head. So, I mean, again, I've given this brief background on Alex. So, Alex was a IRS agent, I think, and he had some kind of a practice in Malibu that he set up, and he started going to these retreats, because California is like one of the world capitals of woo, right? Like all kinds of woo. Any kind of woo you want, you can get it in California. So they have the best crystal shops, let me tell you. So anyway, he used to go to these like ranch get-togethers with abductees, and he would listen to the stories these people were telling, these presentations that they would give of their experiences. And there were people who frequented these, who would kind of years later outed him, which is where the story comes from, where he would come along, and at first he was just listening. First he was just interested in hearing this stuff from people. And over time, as people, were telling these stories, he began to like talk about how he had his own experiences. And, oh yeah, well no, actually I have had some experiences. And over time that grew and grew and grew and grew into where he outed himself as a contactee at some point. And would give these talks, and anyway, he's a fairly good storyteller. But with that in mind, why am I playing this? Why am I fucking playing this? Why am I subjecting us to this? It's to do with, again, some of the moon images, which are some popular ones that I think he kind of ripped off, but it's just kind of a fun thing. So these are some of the moon images from the dark side of the moon. Now, the quality here obviously is not the best, but some of these images, we're at 240p quality here right now, but some of these images are hard to come by. So I thought, now his interpretations are going to be extremely sus, but irregardless.
Okay, this is along the equator on the far side of the moon. This is what's left of a pyramid. There are 4 pyramids on the moon. Excuse me. Okay, now I can assure you that the pharaohs, just to practice, did not take the Hebrew or the ivory up here, build one, then bring it back and do it right in Egypt. Didn't happen. According to the Andromedans, almost all the planets in our solar system have pyramids on it. Some have more. I've asked why.
Even
Some people say they're tombs. The Andromedan perspective is that these are weights, and what they do is
the Andromeda. See, that's what you do, right? So when you go to one of these fucking like contactee meetups, what you realize pretty quickly is everybody has a different story. Because you'd think if everybody was contactees from all these different alien races and they were all part of the Galactic Federation, all the information would like mesh together, right? It would be the same, right? Like if there was a moon on Mars, the Andromedans and the Lyrans and the Pleiadians, well, there's one truth. Like it's made by these people, X, Y, and Z, right? It's made by this fucking group, but it all differs and the interpretations all differ. And so what they do is the Andromedan perspective. And that's a clever way of like not making enemies at these conferences and be like, oh yes, well, this is just the Andromedan perspective. It's like, oh yeah, still diplomatic, and we can all hold hands and sell our DVDs after, and
put them in a strategic location. It balances the rotation of the planet. It doesn't keep it from wobbling, which means that if the ETs are there colonizing, there's no major fluctuations in weather and gravity. Gravity anomalies, as well as the electromagnetic field, which is around every single planet. It has to be balanced. That's what these are for. That's why Giza is directly dead center of the landmass on planet Earth. Next slide, please. Okay, can we just focus this a little tiny bit? Okay, folks, I want you to focus on this area right here. I want you to focus on this structure in here. For those of you who are architects, please feel free to, say something about this. This area right here, you can see the curves, the angles. There's another bridge here. I want you to notice these lit up objects inside the bottom of the crater.
Yeah. Again, the quality here is unbelievably bad, which tends to be the case with these originals too, if you can find them. I don't know. We've gone over this before. There were some other ones we went over on the moon, not necessarily just on the dark side, but anomalous things on the moon. And I'm not an expert in image analysis. I'm not an architect or an engineer. I have no fucking idea. A lot of these to me, let's just look like just rocks. I don't know. Maybe that's because that's what they are, possibly. But there have been some more accredited people who've chimed in over the years and said that there may in fact be. So this collection, I forget where the fuck he got these from, but this collection of photos, some of them supposedly are interesting. I remember Norman Bergrund, I think, had commented on that, and he, very credited engineer at NASA, and he's a guy who had the whole Ringmakers of Saturn meme where he was convinced that Voyager, when it passed by Saturn, took pictures of craft within its rings. And so he had this book called The Ringmakers, right? I think I don't know if he's really implying they're making the rings, probably mining the rings, maybe, if that's the scenario, but that there were these giant craft in the rings of Saturn, these big cylindrical craft. And he had an opinion, too, that he thought that there was potentially structures on Mars and on the far side of the moon. And again, I don't know if there's qualities there, really, but...
We've got a close-up of it. Next slide, please. Here we go. Okay, here's another bridge.
No, that's kind of interesting. Man, I don't even fucking know. Like, that one's definitely more intriguing, I guess. You can kind of see the structure there he's pointing to now a little more clearly, and you can see on the right, those aren't really right angles. It could just be like a lip or a ledge or something. The shadows too could maybe make this seem a little bit, more fantastical. Quality sucks because they were digitized from VHS tape 20 OPR 30 years ago. Oh, it was same with Hendrix vids. Still some on technology got better. Oh yeah, I have a whole box of VHS Hendrix tapes that traded back. Oh fuck yeah, man. Yeah, it's probably what's going on here. I wish some of these. I mean, you can definitely find these photos, but wasn't Ed Mitchell? There was another guy. We just watched a video. A couple people in the know had gone and went and got original like photos from like JPL and shit of these missions to the moon and Mars. And it was Joe McMoneagle was saying this, that he went to NASA and he went and he got was it negatives? He got a bunch of stuff of these targets he was given back in the 80s. These pictures, which was like one's nicknamed Old Fort. It's in Cydonia, and they're close-ups of these sites. And actually, the one that Joe had showed at a presentation, which again is what the Monroe Institute got him to remote view, which when he went there was actually structured, but who knows if that's actually the case. That photo's pretty compelling. If I could find, maybe I could just find that quickly just to show it. But it's pretty interesting, actually. They're right Cydonia. Old Fort. Oh, of course, man. See, this is the thing you're not going to find it just Googling it. Fuck. Maybe we can try and find it after. But he had showed one of the photos that he got, the higher res photos. And it's very interesting. I thought that one looked pretty damn interesting. It almost looks like a pyramid with the top lobbed off. They called it the Old Fort. And there were some fairly accredited people associated with. Here's the Cydonia region here. I'll pull it up so above my camera so we can see. But it's within the Cydonia region. Where is it? I don't think it might be off to the left a bit. But there's a face. But they may even show. No, there's another formation there, which is kind of interesting. Does kind of look like some kind of a worm, but who knows? Who knows? But anyway, fuck. We'll go back to this here.
Apparently, this is inhabited by extraterrestrials from Orion. These are, I'm told, are domes. Does everybody see this? Okay. I'm also told that this is a road that goes into here. There's an elevator that goes up to this area here. And when they land, they take an elevator or something down, and then they can walk, because there's atmosphere on the far side of the moon. Which is why the astronauts took pictures of clouds. It's unbelievable. The snow job that we've been given. It's nothing what we've been told it is. Nothing. Right. Next slide, please. Okay, I want you to focus on this. Let me just turn off one. I want you to focus on this area right here. Now, I realize this might be difficult, but I do have a close-up. This is a crater, and there is a structure that comes across it.
Oh, I
you
see
can
it.
see the sun coming through this way.
I see
you
it.
can see it shining right here underneath.
I see
and you can
whatever
see
that is.
This is still in the shade. This structure here. This is a 21-mile long bridge. Next slide, please. Here.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, like...
I'm always updating. I'm always trying to get clearer pictures.
Yeah. I mean, if you're like a structural engineer, you may be trained to differentiate like natural versus unnatural shapes, structures, these kind of patterns and whatnot. Maybe. Definitely interesting.
This is
Alex,
21 miles. Now, you might have...
everyone tuning in, this is Alex Collier. Jesus Christ. This is Alex Collier doing a presentation on the dark side of the moon to celebrate the landing of the American probe on the dark side of the moon. If it's actually made it. And me, welcome, man. I think if they're able to get the photo data from the lander, is that we're saying they plan on using photogrammetry to create a 3D map of the landing zone. It's pretty neat how you can 3D model shit from a number of camera points and location data. Yeah, man. Maybe they can go fucking fly over this area after. I don't know, do a 3D mapping of that. It is interesting that they never really took an interest in the dark side again after these photo sets. So. I like the badge mentioned, JFK lore. Well, yes, it could certainly be what he says it is. It's subjective of the qualities and narrative. It's exactly it, Hendricks. Yeah, it's just not really enough. Now, some people say some of the images are enough to like warrant further inquiry, but I don't see it either.
You may not see it. You may have to adjust your eyes.
Honestly, but
I know this isn't easy, but this is it right here. Okay, you can see the sun shining through here. Now, we didn't build this. And how is it that our astronauts missed this?
What I would give back in the day to go to one of these lectures, I would get so fucking high, and I would just kill to sit there and listen to Alex explain this stuff out with that pointer. It's like an ASMR thing for me. He's got like that point, like that old pointer at the fucking what are these even called again? Jesus Christ. These they used to have them in school, right? You put the things on them and they project the projectors. Jesus Christ, there you go. It would be my dream. It's what a field trip if a worst day. That'd be pretty close, man. I don't know. That'd be up close and personal. Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know. We pay Alex enough money, he'd probably do it. He'd make an exception.
21 miles. That's from here to
fucking that. Too proud. Yeah. Any questions at all would get you kicked out, Hendricks. That's the thing. Questioning the Andromedan perspective would be an instant hissy fit and screeching. Screeching would follow, I think, definitely.
Next slide.
I would lop it all up. The fantasy.
Look at this.
It's like Reddit cringe. You just sit and let it wash over you.
In 1966.
1966, okay. So they could probably narrow down getting a hold of these photos ourselves.
Isn't it interesting that we're told that the craters were created by meteorite impact?
His intuition is what he used. Actually, he didn't measure it. The Andromedans did. That's. I think actually what he's parroting. Was it? Oh, fuck! What's his name? It's not Richard Dolan. Oh my god, Finn always knows. I asked Finn. If you're in here, it's Richard Hoagland. Fuck! There we go. I just got it. No, it's Richard Hoagland. So Richard Hoagland was big. Richard Hoagland started the whole Mars hysteria around the face in the Cydonia region. And he was also big on interpreting these photographs from the dark side of the moon. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these metrics Alex is throwing out were from Richard Hoagland's interpretations. He's someone else too. We could probably find the original photographs like on his website. He's probably selling them for like $1,000 a pop or something.
Impact.
Some generous figure, right?
Incessant meteorite bombardment. I just love that. Okay? And yet, you have full-fledged mountains in the dead center of these craters.
That would definitely trigger some screaming.
Than the crater walls.
Screeching.
Folks, that's just not possible. It is not possible. You have craters that are 30 to 40 miles in diameter. The deepest one is only 7,000 feet. That is also an absolute impossibility. Richard talks about his dome structures, okay, that had some kind of a glass on it. Right here. I believe, and I'm told that this is what's left of one of Richard's domes. That he has a picture of them. With the long shards and the pieces hanging off. This is what's left of it. As you can see, there's a shiny spot of the glass tickered in. That's what this is right here. This apparently also was a domed city, but it was destroyed by particle beam weapons between what we now know as the Orion group and a group from the Pleiades.
See, that kind of like fucking information is golden. Like that stuff that Richard wasn't able to get a hold of. Like, you know, Alex doesn't just have Richard Hoagland photographs ripped off. He's got the like why and the how this happened, right? That's the Andromedan perspective. Particle beam weapons, right? That's what he fills it all in. It's like, oh my god, it makes sense now. Yeah.
This happened approximately 9,600 years ago.
Oh fuck.
Full-out war here.
Not that long ago.
Next slide, please. Okay, I want you to just check out this area here. All these structures, look at these. Apparently these are hangars. This is a complex that is inhabited by human beings from Earth. Also want you to look at this object. I'm trying to get a better picture of what this large structure is. And what's really interesting about this area here and this is look at how sharp this crater is. The corners here. Very nice and sharp.
Yeah, bro. I don't know. That's actually kind of strange. But then, like, what the fuck are we really looking at? Is this like top down or? Let's see if I can scroll through and find some other ones that are like somewhat. You know, there was one or two in here. So these are Richard Hoagland's. Like that one's kind of interesting, but that could also be a natural feature.
Okay. This area here, I have been told by the Sayus and Mornay both, is a base that was built by the United States, the Russians, and the British with the help of bankers, using technology that was given to this elite, this ruling family, by the Greys in 1954. They've been up here a long time, and this is actually considered a resort. This is not Club Med.
So the Rothschilds have been going to space. Where again, Alex? Where? So, more names to say us. His Andromedan and alien friends told him that. Okay, all right.
Next
Ties it
slide.
all together. All right.
More ruins down here, and in here.
Oh yeah.
These are not supposed to be here. These are pieces of spacecraft apparently that were destroyed 9,600 years ago in a war that took place in our solar system. Next slide, please.
We didn't have enough time to really discern what that
this
was.
is the same structures I showed you earlier. Here's some more ruins.
Yeah.
Now I want you to look at this area right here.
Oh
This
Christ.
apparently is what's left of a dome, one of the dome structures. And these pieces that you have on the inside are pieces of the roof that just fell to the floor
Right.
of the dome. You can look, you can see it, you can see there's a circumference. Here's part of the wall that's fallen down this way, okay, and here is part of the dome that is still intact. If we go to the next slide, I might see a little better.
Okay.
We'll have to focus it right here. Well, maybe not. Okay, this was also destroyed in that war 9,600 years ago. Next slide,
This
please.
is like fucking rocks. I mean,
And if you can see this, this is very light. This is a piece of a bridge that crossed this crater where half of it's gone and half of it is just still standing there. I don't know exactly how many miles across this is. But again, how did our astronauts miss this? Next slide, please.
how did the astronauts discern what that? Well, that's what?
Okay, these are more ruins. I myself have even had trouble seeing some of the things in this.
But don't worry, I've made up the whole backstory. Don't worry, I couldn't quite make out what we're seeing, but I have the backstory ready. This is also part of the 9,600-year war versus the Greys and the Orions. You just fuck, man.
But they've been very strong about this particular area, so I felt it was important to include it and just share it with you because maybe somebody in here will see something more than what I see. You know, people
More rocks,
do.
bud.
So I'm just trying to share it.
A lot of rocks.
These structures here, it's a weird place. Again, this is along the equator on the far side of the moon.
A lot of the craters have a rising piece in the middle.
Yes, sir, they do. Yes, sir, they do. And, you know, some of them are full-fledged mountains, and they're just not supposed to be there. Next slide, please.
Boy, I'm some glad, boy, I paid you that $70 to explain to me what all this fucking is. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known what any of this is. I wouldn't have had the fan fiction, you know. I'm so glad now I can go home and tell my wife that I spent all the grocery money on this. Yeah.
Okay.
More I know.
Look at this.
Fuck, man.
Okay. Is that the best we can focus it? Okay, thanks. This area here apparently is a domed complex inside this crater, and I'm told that the world government picked this area because there's water underneath it. These are domes. These are a series of domes that are lit up from the inside.
I didn't know water.
Which thing? This here? I don't know exactly what that is. It's not discernible in the pictures. You know, I think sometimes they purposely blur these just a little bit.
More of a challenge.
Next slide, please. Here's another area in another crater. This is all lit up from the inside.
Holy fuck. I wonder if we can I just find Richard Hoagland Dark Side of the Moon photos? Would that be NASA blocked out the building? Must be a collection of these. There was some interesting anomalous things that Richard had collected that was on the moon in general, photographs. Some surprisingly, again, accredited people within NASA too, after the fact, that came out and said that they had heard rumors that there was, at least on the dark side. Oh, it's in his book, right? Of course, yeah. that there were some things that they'd seen. It's one side of ufology like I've seen. I over the years I've watched videos on. I'm not like an expert. Again, Google being completely fucking useless. That's the thing, man. This is the thing. Like literally, that's why we're watching this Alex Collier video. Because it's like the only fucking collection of these images I can find. And we get some cool fan fiction too in the background, right? So this one's kind of there are some interesting ones.
And it's a monument to one of the old ETs. Next slide.
Oh my God.
Here's a close-up of it.
Okay, it looks like a fucking vibrator or something. Sure this isn't under your bed, Alex? I would just love to go. I would love to go to one of these. No one ever like just roasts them either. Everyone's so patient. Yeah. The lander's alive. Oh, God bless. It made it. So maybe it'll figure out what all this shit is. Intuitive Machine says Odyssey lunar lander is upright and starting to send data. Interesting. That's good news. That's good news. Well, yeah, hopefully. I mean, obviously, we don't want it to fail. Stay positive.
Your suspicions are pretty accurate. Back up just one more time.
Say what?
Okay. Now let's look. Now just look at the rest of the terrain here. Okay. Look at the rest of the terrain and just look at how this sticks out. 7 miles.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking weird.
How come our astronauts missed it?
Well, they didn't.
I mean, I hate to be redundant, but I'm just hoping somebody will have the answer. Next slide. Oh, we did that. Okay. One more time. Okay. This particular area, I'm told, is now being reactivated. They say, Warren and Passaic have said that all of this are ruins and that there are underground facilities all through this area. And I just wanted to share it with you because they're very strong about this particular area. And this is a dome that is apparently that was still left intact.
It's important to note that not this is like any valuable information or anything, but Swan, the guy who started remote viewing, really, he was tasked by the CIA, supposedly, to view a target that ended up being the moon, and it ended up being that crater on the moon. For people that don't know this, there's a crater on the moon. Let me just look this up here. I think of his enhanced scene from Super Derby. Let's see. Crater on the moon that glows. Aristarchus. Fuck, man, you guys know. Anyway, is bright because it is relatively young formation, approximately 450 million years old. Anyway, they got him to view this crater here that periodically just randomly starts glowing. And when they got Ingo to remote view it, he winded up in some kind of a laboratory. And this is before he knew where he was or what he was doing, supposedly. This is from his book. One of the directors of the CIA had got him to do this. And one of the big no-nos, I guess, early on they figured out with remote viewing, supposedly, is don't try and remote view aliens. Because they said weird things started happening afterwards. I've heard this from other remote viewers. Interesting. Anyway, so he started doing the remote viewing session, and he was inside of this facility, and he was looking around. He started to realize that these figures in this facility aren't human. And then he started to get very concerned because he started to put two and two together, and he was like, did these motherfuckers just send me somewhere that they know we're not supposed to go? And that's correct. They made him go to this crater on the moon. And supposedly, the weird thing is kind of just the weird woo part of the story. Alarms started going off because they all turned around and were able to see or perceive Ingo in his consciousness viewing this area. And so then he left very quickly. And the weird part about the story, supposedly, is that after that fact, he had been like fucking like gang stalked, by ETs afterwards. Nothing, never saw them, but he would hear footsteps on his roof, knocking on the walls. He would see lights outside. It was like some kind of weird harassment after. Like they were trying to scare the shit out of him. And it was, this is something that he claimed happened, right? But very, very interesting. And there have been others that have made these same claims, actually. There was another remote viewer, too, that had mentioned this. Actually, John Vivanco, who I've talked about here, who runs Right Hemispheric, but he had a similar incident where he was doing a TV show, I think for History, and there was a UFO down somewhere in I think it was like Brazil, somewhere in South America, might have been Chile, and they got him to remote view this UFO, and he got some weird data back, right? His team, they didn't know what they were doing, right? His team does it blind. He was a part of the team, that did it, though. So he was the one looking at this object. And supposedly what happened was he had, I think it was a dream, some kind of weird experience where the being that he had viewed in this session was in his bedroom at the foot of his bed trying to communicate with him. And his wife was beside him, and it scared the shit out of him. It was very vivid. He retells the whole story, but it freaked him the fuck out. And there was another incident too where something had happened, and he's similar. It's an incident with Ingo Swan where you hear walking around on the roof, you hear knocking on the walls, you hear all this shit, and it's what the fuck. Anyway, just an interesting aside there, but not no real corroboration, just kind of like a schizo story to tie into some of this moon stuff, right? That there's rumors that there are alien bases on the moon. One of the roots to that claim is from Ingo, because otherwise we don't have any kind of documentation that there's aliens in the moon. There's been speculation that potentially the first Apollo astronauts may have seen something in a crater in the distance, some lights on a crater in the distance. There's some speculation this has even been captured on some of the audio, that they were aware they were being watched, was something that people had thought had happened. It's all kind of rumor. No one ever really out and out said it or confirmed it. But some of the like Neil Armstrong had quite a collection of UFO stuff in his archives. So when he died, they exhumed his archives, and there was a fuckload of UFO stuff. He was obsessed with it. So might play into that. It's where the reactor is. Surface is too thin, and the glow of the fission emits through the crater. That could be it. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, that's definitely. I don't know. Ingo was there was some bullshit around that guy, and honestly, reading about how put off over the years too, and some interactions he's had, there seems to be a bit of an air of bullshit. Russell Targ, I always liked. If you've ever seen interviews with these guys about remote viewing, Russell always seemed much more grounded, and open. But anyway, they were the founders of remote viewing, so maybe that did happen with Ingo, maybe it didn't, but I know the Y-Files is going to start here momentarily as well. And they're talking about the secrets of Antarctica, mysteries beneath the ice. So, that's interesting. Another enigma, Antarctica. Kind of similar to the dark side of the moon, just unexplored territory. Rumors of lost ancient, structures. I would bet in Antarctica, maybe you'd have remnants of this lost civilization on Earth that I think was probably human. But who knows? I wonder what he's going to dig into on this, though. And it's interesting because I want to jump around too much, but I did want to cover this before he went live with that Y files. But the ice age, when the Antarctica was fairly ice free. When was Antarctica ice free? I'd be interested to see. Yeah, from the evidence we presented in our study, we concluded that the East Antarctic ice sheet in Queen Maud Land also melted rapidly along its margins between 9,000 to 5,000 years ago, in a period we call the Mid-Holocene. At this time, many parts of the world experienced warmer than present summers. When was there no ice in Antarctica? The continent lay over the South Pole without freezing over for almost 100 million years. Then about 34 million years ago, a dramatic shift in climate happened at the boundary between the Eocene and the Oligocene epochs. So I believe that I thought it was like 20 or 30,000 years ago, there was a warming period in Antarctica that portions of it were without ice. I thought I had read that. I'm pretty sure that was the case. Now, the peak... When was the peak of the Ice Age? Was the peak of the Ice Age? Oh, for Christ's sake, it'll figure it out. About 20,000 years ago, so that might not be the it might be before then. It might have been like 40,000 years ago. Interesting. So if there are, in fact, structures there under the ice, then they would probably not have anything to do with humans. Then, if that's the case, and those two are big time rumors. There's been no, real confirmation from anyone that there's structures. There's rumors from people, mainly people that are ex-special forces that had worked for like security detail and shit, that were down there, that had told stories about discoveries that were made. But they were put forward by like people like Linda Moulton Howe. There was one guy that seemed pretty level-headed, and he had talked about it was very simple. He just flew a plane over what looked like, I think, a giant black triangle right in like the center of Antarctica. It was a no-fly zone they had to fly through, and he blacked his face out and revealed his identity. Never got anything from the publicity, so that was kind of interesting. But again, who knows? It doesn't really prove anything. It's an interesting spot, for sure. There's been interesting stuff that's happened down there. There was a astrophysicist that died very suspiciously, and people have thrown around for years that he was murdered, maybe even assassinated down there. It was interesting. He was working, I think they had an infrared telescope down there, and they still do, maybe. His name is Rodney. It's the only death in potential murder investigation. Not the only death, but it's the only potential like homicide investigation that they ever did in Antarctica. Only murder in Antarctica. Rodney Marks was a bright young Australian astrophysicist who remains the only person to potentially be murdered on the continent of Antarctica. The spring in the year 2000, when Rodney was working his second stint in Antarctica, he died from ethanol poisoning, which was weird. Oh, methanol, sorry. Claiming he drunk a bunch of methanol, but didn't really make a lot of sense. But then he went into the doctor complaining about that he wasn't feeling well. So it wasn't like a suicide attempt or anything. They had ruled out, I think, any kind of like suicide attempt. There was pretty clearly some foul play that happened here. Now, interestingly, now I've heard this from a couple different sources. Over the years as to like what he was doing down there, which some people had think that he was looking for Planet X, which I find kind of hard to believe. Again, I don't know if there is an observatory down there. I don't think it's like infrared. Antarctica Observatory. Okay, is it infrared? Infrared. Oh, yeah, okay, it is actually. Infrared and radio on the spectrum of light. You need to, if you're looking for Planet X, you need to have an infrared telescope, more than likely. Same with Planet 9, because it's out too far, and we're not going to be able to visually see it, at least in like our regular light spectrum. Interesting. So maybe there is, I don't know, maybe some fucking truth to that rumor. I don't know what he did his dissertation on. I don't know what he really was a specialist in other than astrophysics. He was observing the stars down there, and someone didn't like whatever he was doing, and somehow they poisoned him and killed him. And there was a bunch of drama bringing his body back over. That's kind of how this got like famous. His story was, he was from, I think, New Zealand, was he? No, Australian. But they were trying to get his body brought back over, but there was all this drama. And there was a bunch of drama involved in trying to get an autopsy on the body too. Obviously, bringing things back and forth from Antarctica aren't easy, but it was a bit excessive. There's a whole article that you can read on it and the whole story. I think his family was involved in it, and they just wanted, obviously, this answered as to like, what the fuck, who killed our son? So yeah, have you ever covered that electrical engineer who went down to Antarctica and reported power sources capable of stuff way beyond what they claim they're doing? Yeah, he testified at Greer's press conference, right? That guy. I think the guy who testified about that stuff actually wasn't an electrical. Maybe there was another guy who actually was an electrical engineer. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, there were people that Greer brought up that are perfectly credited. Like, you know, they're legitimate people. They're just using Greer as an outlet. But I thought it was interesting. I think I'd heard some people kind of pick it apart a bit. But yeah, I don't know. People pick apart Bob Lazar's story to the death, and I still think there's something there. There is literally something still there with Bob's story. I think undoubtedly. So then, I don't know. I didn't really look that much further into it. Did you? I remember I watched it here. I don't know if you watched that when I was watching it. But there's all kinds of rumors. There's people who've done remote viewing down there, and they've seen all kinds of fucking shit. Like, which is, again, like, it's not science. There's a lot of woo involved. Like, one person had seen that there's this facility down there, like an anti-aging facility. It's essentially this, like, international science center, but they do sketchy things. Like, they do technically internationally illegal things. But there's this, like, conglomeration of countries that work together kind of off the grid, almost doing experimentations with stuff that they're not supposed to be doing. And that's where it's done, is down there, which is interesting. There's stories about, you know, there's people working with aliens. Again, there's facilities set up around these ancient ruins, and people had, like, John Kerry had visited there recently, and there's been other famous people, like I think Buzz Aldrin visited Antarctica, and that there's all this swirling speculation that there's maybe something else going on there. Again, some kind of like agreement going on between visitors or something. I just it's so fucking. And then there's the technology stuff too. Yeah, that they're, again, it's a place of experimentation where they're testing out all of this advanced tech, and they're developing it down there, kind of away from the general public. But that seems a little bit much, but who knows? I don't know. I really just don't know. I don't think anyone really fucking knows. I mean, I like to think that that's not, I like to hope that's not happening, but maybe this apparatus, like the States, whether it's privately funded too, who knows, like, they just got a hold of the best and the brightest, like literally at a fucking high school, and they never made it to like really academia, and they've just been paying them shit tons of money to go and research this advanced tech in these remote areas. And they're just so far ahead of the curve than everybody else. It's not even funny for that reason. It makes sense, man. I don't know. Like, when you think about that, especially the last couple decades, really, with how involved, you know, kids have been, like, you know, testing and whatnot, and we're kind of, especially maybe the millennials are kind of like the first generation, like we're the first internet generation, that maybe if you had these private interests scouting out these super geniuses, that'd be like the first time you would kind of maybe be able to grab them before they went completely public, or you were able to get a hold of them before they went off and became too famous. And I don't know. That's a theory. I've heard Eric Weinstein talk about that. You know, speculating about these black programs that like maybe they just have got a hold of the top of the top, although i.e. the top of the top in the public eye isn't actually the top of the top, right? It's just that's just what the public has been available to the public, but the real geniuses are behind the scenes and they got sucked up by this, you know, black hand that is all this money, and it's thrown them at this great conundrum, which is alien tech or alien ruins or whatever. That's what Eric was speculating about, that potentially there may be some truth to that even, which was pretty trippy. But that maybe that's what's gone on. That's what's happened. So yeah, I don't know. All I hope is that we fucking get some of those people out. Yeah, Bear. Yeah, I don't know, man. It could be, because, you know, when you look at Bob Lazar is an example of this potentially. Now, I've heard Drunk, who's in here, who's a physicist occasionally, speaks his language, and he's able to discern from some of the stuff he was talking about that he's not super knowledgeable, like just to do with some things in physics. But he's clearly an intelligent guy, and maybe to do specifically with propulsion, he's more skilled. But you do run into these people who, again, they're very smart, and they just never really gave a shit about getting involved with these academic institutions, these businesses, which is fucking kind of what they are. Well, it's literally what they are now. That's what they kind of always have been, but more so now. And maybe they just were kind of like rogue, and they just got sucked up by someone else, right? Again, at the end of the day, it's like, you're smart. It doesn't really, right? It doesn't, whether you're associated with the university or not, doesn't really particularly fucking matter. Oh, it's starting. Yes. Yeah. It is beginning. The Secrets of Antarctica. Interesting. I hope he doesn't talk about Admiral Byrd again. If I hear someone talk about fucking Admiral Byrd again, I'm just going to mute the chat for this portion, just because I know people watching want to see it in its full glory here. Here we go. The whole Admiral Byrd story here of going under the ground into the inner earth is horseshit. It was concocted by his fucked up son that wrote a book after he died, just trying to make money off his dad. So I think he cleared that up anyway last time. Yeah. Admiral Byrd, yeah, he was a part of High Jump, I think, which was the mission that they sent to Antarctica to find the rest of the Nazis, that ended like 3 months into like the multi-year mission, which was very sauce. They carved the portal. No, this is another one. This is the Inner Earth portal, Digi. It was all a concoction, people are pretty convicted it was a concoction. But something definitely happened during, I think it was High Jump. Absolutely something fucking fucked happened. There were rumors that they did get attacked by UFOs. All this crazy shit. That could be more plausible. But there was never anything written down to say that either. I think just more rumors swirling, right? So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Is it Agartha? Is that what they call it? Maybe it is Agartha. Sorry. Yes. Okay. I think there's one in California. What the fuck's it called? Anyway, a mountain. Mount Shasta. The thing of the Shasta portal. Yeah. Yeah. Here we go.
This episode of the Y-Files is brought to you by Temu. Antarctica has been the source of high strangeness for a long time. Rumors of UFOs and alien bases go back to the 1930s. Hitler wanted to build bases there. Some people think he did. Operation High Jump arrived in 1946 with a heavily armed U.S. Navy fleet. Their mission was to extend American sovereignty over Antarctica. The mission was supposed to take 6 months. Instead, it lasted 6 weeks. The operation ended because of poor weather. At least that's the official report. Eyewitnesses said aggressive flying, disc-shaped craft chased the Navy out of the area. In 1985, a medevac flight was forced over a no-fly zone near the South Pole. The crew saw a giant hole in the ice, as wide as a football field. When the crew returned to base, They were debriefed, not by the Navy, by men in suits. One of the crewmen said they had the typical DC look. In the 1990s, Navy flight crews reported silver discs zipping over mountain peaks at impossible speeds. The crews were told to never speak of it. In 2003, a Navy SEAL on a covert mission found an ancient structure protruding through the ice. It was made of something that wasn't quite metal, but wasn't quite stone. It was warm to the touch, and on that structure was a door. In 2018, scientists in Antarctica launched weather balloons to study cosmic rays coming from space and hitting the Earth. They found cosmic rays, as expected. But what they didn't expect, the cosmic rays were coming from something 2 miles underneath the ice. There are witnesses who have seen things, heard things, and felt things that should not exist in Antarctica, yet they do. Whatever's down there, we're not supposed to know about it. But one thing's for sure, something very strange and very important is happening at the bottom of the world.
Interdasting.
Are you recording? The light's not blinking. Okay. Here we go. Hello, humans.
Oh, Jesus,
my name is
fucking
Hecklefish
ads.
Moriarty, and this is my Temu audition reel. You may already know me as the host of the Y-Files. What? Okay, fine. Co-host of the Y-Files. But my passion is in Temu and the products they sell. Okay, let's do this. I want to be the first fish to let you in on a secret. Temu is having a site-wide sale with savings up to 90% off. What a steal! Let's take a look at these beautiful, amazing, spectacular items provided by Temu. This 2-in-1 intelligent phototherapy machine is so easy to use, even a human can do it. I'm joking, of course. All you gotta do is plug this baby into a USB socket and stick in your fins, hands, claws, whatever appendage you got. Just stick it in there. The LED does the rest. With adjustable time settings, you can get a hard nail in a matter of seconds. Nobody likes soft nails, am I right, ladies? This hot item can be yours for a low price of $5.12. Now look at this smart doorbell X9. I'm not sure what the X9 means, but it's probably better than X8. This has everything you need. Wi-Fi connection, real-time talking, fast charging, and it even sends notifications to your phone. Best of all, by clicking the link in the description box and downloading the Temu app, new users can get the wireless doorbell camera for $1.08. Huge security for a small price. Oh look, I just got a notification. Okay, that threw me off. Hang on. Hey, how many humans does it take to suspend a light bulb? Hopefully just one. You!
Holy Christ.
Temu has this awesome levitating light bulb lamp to make anyone feel smarter. Look at that! Feeling smarter already. It's so simple too. Plug it in and spell.
That's actually kind of sick. I put that on my fucking desk.
Feel smarter and do sorcery for only $51.78. But wait, that's not all. Just for watching this video, you can receive a portable solar panel for only $1.40. For all my aquarium-fetid friends that love to travel, connect your water pump to the solar panel and enjoy the views. And what kind of host would I be if I didn't encourage my followers to download the Temu app through the link below and get a $100 coupon bundle for free? Or search our code TWF100 in the Temu search bar to claim. First-time app users
pay good money for that,
and get the portable solar panel and wireless doorbell. I'm Hecklefish, and this was my Temu audition. Please pick me. I've dreamed of this since I was a guppy.
Edgar hasn't got to it yet, so.
You know what? Let's do one more for safety. Everybody, back to one.
Okay, yeah, back to the regular program.
In November 1995, a Navy flight engineer who wishes to be known as Brian was part of a U.S. Navy C-130 crew. The plane flew low circles around Marie Byrd Land. This was an area in the southwest part of Antarctica where 15 scientists set up camp. The plane was dispatched
could
from
probably do that,
McMurdo
yeah.
Base, a few hundred miles east of camp. The protocol is for scientists to radio every day and report their status. McMurdo hadn't heard from the science team in a couple of days. That was bad. The scientists were from the National Science Foundation, and their mission was routine: study weather conditions, take ice samples, note wildlife, that sort of thing. They had no reason to wander away from camp. Even if they did, they'd be dead within an hour anyway. The C-130 flew in tighter and tighter circles. The crew could easily see the camp. The weather was clear and visibility was
That's a
good.
good idea, actually,
They could see the huts, fuel tanks, some equipment. Snowmobiles were lined up. Everything seemed to be in order. A C-130 Hercules is a 4-engine turboprop. It's big. It's loud. If there was a problem, this is the point where people should be popping out of huts and waving their arms, but nothing. The rescue crew landed and took a look around. 15 scientists were dropped off here about a week ago. They had enough supplies to last a month, but nobody's here. There's no tracks, no signs of anything. The crew checked the radio. It was working fine. They radio their commanding officer at McMurdo.
There were no people, no bodies, no signs of a struggle. It's like they just vanished. What do we do?
The orders came back. They were obvious. There's really nothing you can do. Fly one last search pattern and return to base. So the C-130 made a few wider circles to see if there's any sign of the science team. There was nothing. After an hour or so, they flew back to McMurdo. The missing scientists were a mystery, but Antarctica is a dangerous place. People do die there from time to time. Anything could have happened. But over a week later, the C-130 crew gets an urgent command. Immediately return to the Marie Birdland camp. The scientists somehow are back. They just radioed in and they were in a panic. They want to get out of there, and they want to get out right now.
I think I know this story. I think this is one of Linda Moulton Howe's guys.
Antarctica is one of Earth's most isolated and unexplored places. Over 98% is buried beneath ice sheets that are 2 and sometimes even 3 miles thick. Despite extreme weather and limited access, discoveries are being made in Antarctica that hint at extraterrestrial activity, advanced technology, and lost civilizations hidden under the miles of ice. Recent satellite images reveal several pyramid and pyramid-like structures poking through the icy landscape. The official explanation is that these are natural rock formations, but there's one pyramid built with precise geometry, with each side lining up perfectly with true north, south, east, and west. Something like this wouldn't occur in nature. This looks like intelligent design. One enormous 1.2 mile wide pyramid was found, and it could be the oldest on Earth, suggesting all others were styled after it.
Yeah, maybe.
Is this another hint that an ancient race built these monuments to generate energy?
I think it was 80,000 years ago, Digi.
And this takes us back to the story of Tesla, trying to create free, unlimited wireless energy with his Wardenclyffe Tower experiments. He attempted to use technology that may have been used in the Great Pyramid of Giza long ago.
Tesla pyramid link below, human.
According to the Knights Templar, the true purpose of each
guess they should
pyramid
probably
is to
advertise
store
for them
an
'cause I'm
ark,
leeching
just
off
like
of
the Ark of the Covenant. They claim there were 10 of these arcs scattered around the world that, when connected, generated unlimited energy for everyone on Earth.
Knights Templar link below.
90 million years ago, Antarctica was a rainforest. We have core samples to prove it. That's not controversial. Geologists claim Antarctica has been frozen and uninhabited for over 12 million years. So who's building pyramids beneath hundreds or thousands of feet of ice? Well, nobody. But what if Antarctica had a warmer climate more recently than 12 million years ago? Much more recently. The Pinkerton map, drawn in 1818, was the most accurate in the world. Well, almost. If you look at the southern hemisphere on the Pinkerton map, nothing exists, just open sea. Now, that makes sense. Antarctica wasn't discovered until 1820. It wasn't confirmed to be a landmass until 1840. But older maps show Antarctica not as a giant frozen continent, but as a land free of ice. a land where plants and animals lived, and these maps go back to the 1500s. In 1513, the Piri Reis map was compiled.
Pee-wee Reese?
Piri Reis.
What'd I say?
The Piri Reis map shows the coastline of Antarctica and the animals living there. The Orontius Phineas map is dated 1531. The entire continent of Antarctica is there, and there's no indication of ice at all. It shows mountain ranges that we know are there. The Piri Reis map only shows the coastline of Antarctica, but the Orontius map shows interior features of the continent. And now, because of satellite imagery, we know those features are there. They're just covered under miles of ice. If you sailed to Antarctica during the 1500s when these two maps were drawn, you'd find exactly what you'd find now. Nothing, a frozen wasteland. But that's not what the maps show.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Why? Because these maps are based on much older maps. But how old is the big question? And it's a question that mainstream scientists don't want to answer. Because the last time parts of the coast of Antarctica were free of ice was at least 6,000 years ago. The human race was not supposed to be sailing the globe back then. But the Orontius Phineas map shows the entire continent free of ice. How could this be? Because it's based on a map that was drawn not 6,000 years ago, but 12,000 years ago. And the reason Antarctica wasn't covered in ice? Well, it wasn't at the South Pole.
That is one of the theories, yeah. Pole shift. Physical pole shift. Actually,
Charles Hapgood was a Harvard-educated historian and explorer. His radical theories about Earth's geologic history made him famous and controversial. Hapgood believed that Antarctica had a temperate climate not too long ago, and living there was an advanced ancient civilization.
Atlantis?
Don't get ahead of me.
Sorry. I'm excited. Go ahead.
So there's a civilization living on Antarctica, but it's not at the South Pole. At least most of it isn't. Remember, Antarctica is a huge continent. There's plenty of land for a civilization to exist, as long as the continent's not too far south, which it wasn't. But suddenly, a crustal displacement violently relocated Antarctica into frigid polar latitudes 12,000 years ago. Hapgood believed evidence indicated that portions of the planet's surface could shift dramatically along the molten inner layers. This could conceivably transform entire continents virtually overnight. Hapgood also used the Orontius Phineas map to help support his theory. Not only is Antarctica free of ice, it's not in the right place. Antarctica has shifted 1,000 miles away from the South Pole. That's a polar shift of 7.5 degrees. Hapgood said the shift could have happened in less than a week, maybe even in a single day. If Hapgood's theory is correct, the destruction would have been catastrophic. If Antarctica suddenly traveled 1,000 miles toward the South Pole, any civilization would be destroyed, and the layers of ice would start building immediately. The crust floats on the mantle, and tectonic plates are always in motion. They move away from each other, they collide with each other, but this process takes millions of years. What could possibly cause the Earth's pole to shift 7.5 degrees in a single day? Well, in 1974, Italian naval engineer Flavio Barbiero published A Civilization Under the Ice. He proposed that the remains of a lost civilization may lie under the ice of Antarctica. He says that Antarctica had a temperate climate home to a thriving civilization. Then the entire continent was suddenly thrown to the South Pole due to a major impact event.
Younger Dryas, here we come.
Yeah, it seems like every episode of the Y-Files ends up here. If there was a giant asteroid impact between 12 and 13,000 years ago, it could have caused a shift in the Earth's crust. We know something about 12,800 years ago suddenly caused the Earth to warm. That warming melted the Earth's ice sheets, and sea levels rose hundreds of feet. What if another result of this impact was a shifting in the Earth's poles of 7.5 degrees? Then suddenly, the Orontius Phineas map makes perfect sense. But that leaves the biggest question of all.
Yeah, but who drew the map?
Right. Clearly, whatever civilization drew the map was highly advanced. The Orontius map shows features that you could really only see from the air.
Atlantis! This is the story of Atlantis!
All of this does fit nicely with the story of Atlantis. The island nation, the advanced people, the sudden cataclysm. Every chronological event lines up perfectly. So what happened to the civilization when miles of ice started piling on top of their cities? Where did they go? Well, they didn't go anywhere. They're still down there.
Very interesting. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, yeah.
Brian's C-130 rescue team mobilized out of McMurdo Base and was on the ground at Marie Birdland Base in less than 2 hours. When the plane landed, the crew saw that the scientists had haphazardly packed all their gear on pallets and were eager to get the hell out of there. The science team boarded the aircraft in absolute silence. The crew asked them what was wrong. Are they okay? Is there anything they could do to help? The scientists just stared in silence, almost catatonic. They were clearly in shock. The crew offered them food and hot coffee. Silence. From wheels up to wheels down is 2 hours, and nobody uttered a word. When the C-130 landed at McMurdo, the scientists were told they were going on another plane. For some reason, they didn't want to move, or couldn't. Someone had to go into the plane, physically unbuckle and remove each scientist from their seat. These people clearly saw something and were suffering from PTSD. They walked like zombies to the other plane, and they were gone. Their research gear was placed in an empty storage facility and locked. The rescue crew was told not to go in there. The equipment was quarantined. The gear would stay locked and guarded until transported to a different location. Nobody knew it then, but that gear would eventually be taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. If you know your UFO lore, you know that one of the places recovered craft go is Wright-Patterson. Wright-Patterson was also the headquarters of Project Blue Book, the Air Force UFO investigation unit. Anyway, the C-130 rescue crew was called into the commander's office. Inside the office were 2 men in plain clothes who had just arrived from Washington, D.C.
Men in black.
Yep. They told the crew that they would never speak of this incident. Not the missing scientists, not the equipment, not the location of their camp, nothing. None of this ever happened. The crew flight engineer, Brian, was fine with this. This wasn't his first keep your mouth shut meeting. He had this very same meeting in this very same room about 10 years earlier. But that first meeting wasn't about people and equipment on the ground. It was a meeting about what Brian saw in the sky.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of familiar with this incident. I think it was
in 2003, a Navy SEAL team was dispatched from McMurdo Base to the Beardmore Glacier region. Officially, they were doing routine reconnaissance. Unofficially, it was an extraction operation. The team was to find a scientist, gather his research, and return him to base. The SEAL team commander was codenamed Spartan 1. It was made very clear to him and his team that the research was extremely important and had to be protected at all costs. Now, of course, Spartan 1 agreed, but this was an odd request. As far as they knew, this researcher was just some scientist taking pictures of a glacier. And that was true, but it was much more than that. As the SEAL team approached their destination, they saw the top of a black octagon. It was protruding about 18 feet above the melting ice and snow.
This is a cool recreation. Speaking of Sora, I wonder how they did this now.
Spartan 1 approached and saw a huge door. It was 23 feet high and had markings that he thought looked like a star map. Also engraved in the door was a triangle with 2 lines crossing through the center. This is a symbol that's popped up in various places around the world throughout history. Journalist Linda Moulton Howe, who interviewed Spartan 1 and other witnesses, showed him the picture of a coin found in Mexico City in 1993. It had the same markings.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
That was on the outside of the door of the structure, the top right-hand corner of the door.
Spartan 1 gently pushed on the door. It was over 20 feet tall and 18 feet thick. It opened easily. It was perfectly balanced. The SEAL team entered the building. The external temperature was 40 degrees below zero. Inside the building, the temperature varied between 68 and 72 degrees. The door gently closed behind them, leaving the team in eerie silence. And the room was huge. It covered 9 acres, almost 400,000 square feet. The room was as long as 7 football fields. It took Spartan 1 and his team quite a while to walk the length of the hallway. The walls were generating a soft lime green light, though they couldn't see how. It was as if the light was coming from the walls themselves. And on the walls were rows and rows of carved characters. Spartan 1 said they reminded him of Egyptian hieroglyphics or Mayan glyphs, but they definitely weren't either. The SEAL team found their scientists taking pictures and samples of the structure. They asked him how big this place was. He pointed to a ramp at the end of the room. The ramp extended down into the rest of the building. He said in total it covered 62 acres. That's over 2.7 million square feet. It was huge and mostly under the ice. And this was only one of several structures in the area. Now this was 2003. At this time, this giant door was the only way into the structure. But in the years since, other entrances have been found. But the only way to access them is by submarine. Subs have been going 2 miles under the ice to enter the structures. And unlike that top room, the facility's lower levels are occupied. And they're not occupied by humans.
Yeah, it'd be fucking trippy. I don't know, was this second part of Linda's interview? I don't think it was.
Brian's odd rescue mission of the disappearing scientists wasn't his first experience with Antarctica's high strangeness. In the early 1980s, his C-130 crew flew lots of missions over Antarctica. These were usually trips to resupply research stations and transport cargo and personnel, mostly routine stuff. He called them milk runs. Then one mission changed everything. Brian received word his crew was to prepare for the emergency transport of an injured scientist at Davis Station on the opposite side of Antarctica. After taking on additional medical staff at McMurdo Station, they set course for the Trans-Antarctic Mountains. Approaching the South Pole, Brian noticed his navigator plotting an unusual course. He was heading straight over a remote camp labeled Air Sampling Station. It was a no-fly zone, so off-limits to planes. But with a life on the line, the crew violated the no-fly zone. As the plane gained altitude, Brian saw something he would never forget.
Jesus. Like a Stranger Things fucking vibe, that music.
Alright, we're at 183.
183. Good correction, you were right on center line. Engineer has the lead-in plan.
There was a 300-foot wide hole carved in the ice. There were tracks all over the area and tracks extending down inside the hole. There was clearly a lot of activity around this air sampling station. Brian and his crew didn't understand why there was so much secrecy over an ice hole in the middle of nowhere.
You stay away from that farting ice hole, you a sneaky bastard. Johnny Dangerously?
Yeah, I got it. After delivering their patients safely to McMurdo, the crew was summoned to the commander's office.
I was summoned to the commander's office once, human. Once.
Enough with the Johnny Dangerously references, okay? In the room was an officer they'd never seen before. Also present were 2 men dressed in suits.
Men in black.
Yep.
Again.
Yep. The new officer asked about the decision to violate the no-fly zone. The crew explained they had no choice. The patient would have died if they had to fly all the way around. Then the officer just started slowly pacing back and forth, thinking to himself. Finally, he looked at the men in suits, who stepped forward. They said, "Okay, gentlemen, what you saw, you did not see. You were not over that area. You will never go over that area. You will never ever talk about this ever again. Understood?" The crew agreed. Brian's been retired from the Navy for a few years, and even though he's never signed a non-disclosure agreement, he's still not comfortable giving his full name.
Smart.
He was with the Navy for years and flew hundreds of missions in Antarctica. He saw silver UFOs on many occasions, as did other flight crews. It was such a common occurrence that it became routine banter at the mess hall. Brian didn't think much of the incident until a few months later. He was assigned to fly a group of scientists to the dome at the South Pole. The dome was decommissioned in 2010, but at the time there were other buildings inside the dome. Obviously offices and labs, but there was also a galley. Brian was in the galley one day and overheard some civilians talking about the infamous air sampling station. You know, the one in the no-fly zone with the
Vatican ice hole.
a giant hole in the ice, yes. The civilians were saying that they were going back out there to meet some visitors. Brian heard other crews saying similar things. They were taking people to the hole at the South Pole to talk with visitors. Finally, Brian asked what they meant by visitors.
What do you mean by visitors? And he said, well, my impression was that they weren't human. I said, human? You know, I said, what are you talking about? He says, it seemed to me they were talking about like an extraterrestrial or an alien, because they didn't refer to them as a person, it was a visitor.
The rumors had been circulating for years. That 300-foot hole in the ice is an entrance to a base where humans and aliens are cooperating on some type of project. What the project is or was, we don't know. This was the 1990s. But now we have Google Earth. The military is doing their best to cover up their activity in Antarctica, but there are some photographs that they just can't explain.
Yeah, I've heard this too. Yeah, it's very interesting. Hopefully not true.
In 2007, a very suspicious image appeared on Google Earth.
Is this a hole in the cave?
It's a cave entrance that seems to have stairs leading to it.
One.
The ground around the entrance is discolored, as if machinery or equipment was moving in and out. The opening is about 250 feet wide. A few months after the image was released, it disappeared from Google Earth. Then sometime around 2019 or 2020, the cave entrance reappeared. But this time it doesn't look much like an entrance. In fact, even though this photo is 10 years newer, the resolution is worse. We see better detail in the older image. That's suspicious and feels like a cover-up. And speaking of cover-ups, a very interesting story appeared in the Free Republic News on April 13th, 2002. The headline read, U.S. denies spectacular ruins in Antarctica captured on video.
What?
Well, here's what happened. A TV crew for a production company called Atlantis TV went to Antarctica. They were investigating a massive archaeological dig rumored to be happening 2 miles beneath the ice. Well, the crew disappeared.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
But Navy rescuers found their camp and some of their equipment. Among the items found was a videotape. 2 Navy officers showed the footage to scientists when they returned to McMurdo Base. What they saw on the tape was, now here's the quote, they said it showed spectacular ruins and other things they couldn't go into. A secret U.S. military expedition apparently discovered an ancient pyramid temple complex 2 miles beneath the ice. So pyramids are showing up again. By the way, the U.S. military blocked the tape from being released. Atlantis TV sued to get their property back. They didn't win. As far as I can tell, they went out of business a few years ago. Other odd images have been spotted on Google Earth, like this one of what appears to be an alien face.
That's like the face on Mars.
It reminds me of that too. Then there's this photo of what looks like a spaceship that crash landed. People have mentioned the shape of it looks similar to Oumuamua.
Muahua?
Oumuamua was first spotted in October 2017. It's the first known interstellar object to pass through our solar system. Its name means scout or messenger in Hawaiian. What made Oumuamua strange were its shape and the way it moved. It was about 400 feet long and 60 feet wide. This cigar-like shape is unlike any other space object we've ever seen. And somehow when Oumuamua left our solar system, it accelerated. This shouldn't have happened. There are rumors that a secret mission went to Oumuamua and said it was a derelict spacecraft. If that's true, then it could be a probe, one of many flying around our galaxy, perhaps from an alien race looking for planets with life.
Or planets to conquer.
Well, there's always that risk. Aliens will discover our planet rich in resources and want it for themselves. But according to witnesses, documents, and images of Antarctica, the aliens are already here, and they have been for a very, very long time. There are so many stories, rumors, and legends about Antarctica that it's impossible to cover them all in one video. If you want me to go into detail on any of today's stories or any others, let me know. There's a lot of material out there. Now today we focused on the Younger Dryas impact theory, which moved Antarctica to a different position. We covered the caves and a few photo anomalies. We talked about the Navy SEAL who actually entered an alien facility, and we talked about Brian, the Navy pilot, who saw UFOs and
the giant Fargan ice hole.
Right, the 300-foot wide hole in the ice. Fine. What's true and what isn't? Well, Brian's story is tricky. There is no photograph that we know of that hole in the ice. As far as I can find, there are no other whistleblowers. Whoever the missing scientists were, they're not talking. Now, Brian sounds sincere, but still, I'd take his story with a grain of salt. But Brian's reports of UFOs zipping around Antarctica are confirmed by multiple witnesses. UFOs are down there, I have no doubt about that. But the photos of the pyramids are also tricky. Some look like nothing more than pointy rocks, but there are a few that definitely look man-made.
Or alien-made.
Right. Now, I'd be interested to know if they have 8 sides like the Pyramid of Giza, but I couldn't tell from the photographs. The face, I'm convinced that's just pareidolia. Pareidolia is when our brains see objects in random patterns. But I have to admit, that definitely looks like an alien face. I don't think it is, but I'd love to be wrong. Now, according to mainstream science, the crash-landed spaceship is a boulder that rolled down a hill, or a piece of ice or rock that slid down a hill. Now, at first, this sounds ridiculous, but we rarely see the full image. In the full image, like this one from Forbes, you can actually see the outcropping where the boulder came from. So this one's probably debunked. Next, the Navy SEAL who found and entered the alien structure. Again, he's the only one telling the story. He won't give his name or what SEAL team he's with. So again, all we have to go on is his word. Now, by the way, a lot of today's information comes from a documentary by Linda Moulton Howe. It's called Antarctica: Alien Secrets Beneath the Ice. You can rent it on Amazon for $4, and it's worth every penny. In the documentary, the whistleblowers go into much more detail. They make sketches about what they saw. They talk about the stargates all over the planet that can take you someplace instantly. Some stargates can take you to other planets instantly. Anyway, I linked to her doc below. Now, as you know, I'm normally very skeptical of stories where we only have one witness. But Antarctica is a strange place, and I'm sure things are happening down there that are being hidden from the public. Now, the only way to access Antarctica is with permission from one of 12 government signatories of the Antarctic Treaty signed in 1959. This treaty divides the continent into zones administered by the various governments. It's a continent larger than the United States, and you're not allowed to go there. Now, there will be people in the comments saying, of course you can go there. You can take cruises there. You can even arrange to stay at one of the outposts. All that's true. But these are designated areas. Let's say you had the resources to fly a plane to where the hole is supposed to be. You can't. Thousands of square miles around it is a no-fly zone. You cannot explore Antarctica on your own. Now, the official reason for this is that human activity would disrupt the ecosystem. Now, that's a convenient excuse.
What fucking ecosystem?
Most of the surface is dead. There is no ecosystem. Besides, I don't care about the surface. I want to know what's underneath the ice. They're not going to tell us. The Antarctic Treaty was signed in December 1959 at the height of the Cold War, and it's never been broken. Now, I've heard that World War III will not come from a conflict near Russia or from something happening in the Middle East. World War III will occur when someone breaks the Antarctic Treaty.
Who the
And
fuck
if
do you
any
hear
of
that
these
from?
whistleblowers are telling the truth, the United States already has broken the treaty. They claim major archaeological projects are underway right now miles below the ice. But maybe the treaty hasn't been broken. Maybe all the governments are working together to uncover something. Or they're working with, as Brian claims, several species of aliens right now. Now, could there be ancient civilizations buried under the ice, frozen in time like the city of Pompeii? Sure, but until we're allowed to dig, we'll never know. But could there be an active civilization beneath the ice? Scientifically speaking, absolutely there could. Antarctica is the most volcanically active place on Earth. Geothermal heat could provide fresh water and a very comfortable climate for life, intelligent life. And not in small pockets. There are caverns beneath the ice that are said to be larger than Manhattan Island. Now, we'll never know until we're allowed to dig, which we'll never be allowed to do. But here's a small wrinkle: global warming.
Here we go again with the global warming myth.
It's not a myth. The Earth is warming. Whether it's because of human activity or just part of the Earth's natural cycle, we don't know, but the Earth is warming.
How dare you!
So whether by pollution, an asteroid impact, or a massive solar event, there is a chance the Earth could warm quickly, like during the Younger Dryas. Then Antarctica would be free of ice, as it once was. Then the entire Earth would experience another cataclysmic flood. And if there is a civilization beneath Antarctica, it would be revealed. Now, if this global disaster
dead,
happens, I guess there is a bright side. Civilization will continue. It just won't be ours.
Yeah, that'd be the downside, you know.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. My name is AJ, that's Hacklefish.
Don't try to catch me with a hook, human.
Lord.
A fisherman caught me on a hook once.
That was an interesting one. I don't know. There's some interesting tidbits there. David Wilcock. He's always talking in the chat. Yeah. There's some alters at Contact in the desert 20s. Stevens were venting about how he had a penchant for womanizing the ladies. Oh, God. David is the biggest purveyor of horse shit I've probably ever heard. He just exudes bullshit. Horse shit, even. Where is he? Oh, God, man. He's just always... He's put forward so many, like, bullshit artists. Anyway. Wisdom Teachings. Whatever. He's doing his thing. Atlantis Researcher. Holy fuck. I want that title. How do I steal that title from him? Mud wrestling match. I'll do it. Fuck it. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. He's all about that fucking Kool-Aid. That's his whole deal. Yeah. But, I mean, you know, we don't fucking know how crazy things get, right? But when I start hearing like stargates and stuff under the ice that teleport you to Mars, it's like, okay. It's like, all right. I was like, well, you know, these UAPs seem pretty fucking crazy advanced, right? Just from like just a layman looking at the videos, right? The military videos, Gimbal and Go Fast and Tic Tac. There's no Tic Tac video, but anyway. You know, oh yeah, there is, sorry, but not a Fravor witnessing it doing the absolutely insane maneuvers. So maybe the aliens have that technology to just like warp to other places, but I just I don't know. Something, my own intuition is just like, no. I don't know. I don't know. Well, especially when it comes to David, there was a guy who was talking about these stargates and that he went and fought a war on Mars against ETs. And David, I think Linda Moulton Howe was there. The whole crew was there. They had him on stage and he was crying and they were pushing him to go up and tell his story. And again, like, I live off of the cringe. Like, I fucking love the Alex Collier fucking cringe here. Like, just a classic. But Alex was at least a good storyteller. He had great fan fiction. That was just that incident. I forget what the guy's name even is now. It was like fucking 13, 14 years ago. I remember I fucking saw this. And I was just like, man, fuck, I couldn't handle that one. Yeah. Oh yeah, man, I forgot he fucking said that. That is reincarnation of Edgar Casey. Oh my fucking god, man. One of the many red flags. Serpentine, yeah. Watch the documentary talked about in the episode. I want to check it out. I've seen the interviews. The only interview I didn't see was the one with that military pilot talking about the civilians saying that scientists were going to meet with aliens. I'd never seen that one. But the guy who was flying the plane around and flew it over... There was another one, though, where he flew it over the center of Antarctica and he saw a pyramid. And then there was the guy she was mentioning, that the SEAL team guys. So there's two pilots. I saw one with one pilot and then the SEAL team guys. The guy, but there's another guy with him. And they're interesting. I don't fucking know. But it's probably worth a watch. Linda humors some like serious horse shit. But Linda's, to her credit, like... She dug into the whole cattle mutilation thing, right? Like she dug that all up back in the day. So she was a pretty accredited journalist back in the day too. So anyway, whatever. She got involved with some sketchy stuff, but yeah. Oh fuck yeah, man! I'd be down for that sometime. Yeah, we get her. It's only $4. Fucking live it up, right? I'm sure there's that little fucking sneaky deal we could get in that, right? Yeah. It's just unearthing of his energies, but I think there's a total they're on a really access for you. It can be higher dimensional consciousness. Maybe, man. Yeah, I'm a planetary good worker and have had some wild experiences. And one I have been that I said to be a big portal of such a nature was Aramo Muru in Peru. Well, that's the thing. It's interesting, Serpentine, because a lot of those, as you probably know, but a lot of those ancient megalithic sites tend to be at it's not meridian points. Fuck, you know what I just had in my head, for God's sakes. But they're real. They are legitimate, actual like energy centers. Fuck, they're not meridian points. There's another term for it, but they sit in these very peculiar areas. Ley lines. Sorry. Yes, absolutely, man. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah, they sit on these ley lines, and there's very interesting stuff that happens around them, supposedly, and it's definitely by no accident that they are sitting there, which further just highlights potentially that they were crafted by some people that knew more than just copper tools, right? So I think that's another indication that there's more to the story there, clearly, right? And I mean, to the point that where I think even we don't really understand what the fuck it is to do with these ley lines, and that's debated, I know, among some people academically, but that there's definitely something going on with them. And the coincidence that you find so many of these megalithic sites here is just very suspicious. Yeah. We have meridians in our bodies. Yeah. That's what I've heard. Yeah. And it's one of those things that I think had been carried forward from maybe some older cultures, but it's something that is kind of starting to get looked into now much more seriously. Yeah, man. Well, and it's like, that knowledge, the origin of that knowledge, where it came from, who built the sites, why would they build them there? And interesting that if there's anything to that, again, encoding that kind of into the building at the location of this place. And then, on top of that, things encoded into the constructions themselves mathematically. Yeah. Oh, nice. Oh, fuck yeah, man. All right. Well, hell yeah. We'll have to post that in the Discord, Hendrix. I can post it actually. Right now, actually, if we haven't already. Yeah, I'll post it right now. Yeah, man. 100%. I'm bored with that. Well, Giza Plateau, right? The Great Pyramid of Giza. I've listened. Randall Carlson's a pretty good resource on that kind of stuff. He's mathematically he's fairly learned individual, geometry and whatnot. He's an architect by trade, so he snugged through a lot of the strange coincidences, I guess, at Giza Plateau. Some interesting mathematical things you can do with its height base dividing it by itself and giving you like the diameter of the fucking Earth or circumference of the planet. There's some other strange anomalies. Some people just attribute to just coincidence, but it's beyond fucking coincidence. Someone was clearly very learned, right? And you'd have to be learned to build a site like that anyway, which is part of the conundrum I think some of the Egyptologists have, that to create a site to the degree that was created, like the level of specificity involved in the construction, and even just the leveling of the plane itself that those pyramids are built upon, is just so radical. Like you'd have to be there's much more going on there, clearly. But yeah, very fucking very interesting shit. I'd love to visit them someday. I'd love to go to South America and visit many of the ancient megalithic sites. There's so many of them. I'd love to go to Pumapunku at Lake Titicaca. Titicaca, as David Childress would say. I would love to go and see that site. That is Machu Picchu is another one too. And there's a couple other areas around there as well that are very, very cool. But Pumapunku is one that I've always wanted to visit. Was drawn to it. Just the legitimate enigma as to whoever built those fucking structures there that are still to this day supposedly so precisely cut that if you run your finger down the corner of them, it'll cut your finger. It's just fucking, yeah. It was intense. Oh, have you been there? Oh, fuck. Oh, my God. That's insane. I'm just so jealous. Yeah. George Luis Delgado. Oh, I think I know who he is. Yes. Oh, nice, man. Oh, that's awesome. That is fucking awesome. Yeah. Oh, yes. I've seen him on Ancient Aliens, actually. Yeah. Yeah, there he is right there. Yeah. Is that Sacsayhuaman there? That's where they like melted the fucking stone together. It almost looks like, yeah. Oh, hell yeah, man. Oh, that'd be fucking amazing. Oh my God. Yeah, I would love to go down there. That'd be so cool. It's just truly, and just from pictures alone, I'm sure in person it's even more trippy, but it seems it's so clearly some form of advanced construction technique employed at these locations. As I'm sure as maybe George has spoken about, I've heard him speak about the stories of who constructed these sites. In many of these sites, they attribute some of, not all, but the gods were associated with these sites and the building of these sites, and or at least, very least, the knowledge of how to build them. So, yeah, extremely compelling and moving. Honestly, I would love to go. I think it's a Machu Picchu there, but yeah, I know a couple of people who've gone down to Machu Picchu. They said it was just unfucking believable too. It's another site that I'd love to visit, but yeah, just very, very cool. The whole fucking thing is just an enigma. But yeah. Anyway, I think for the time being, that's probably where I'll leave it this evening, everybody. But yeah, cool stuff, cool stories. Who knows? Maybe we'll find something at Antarctica soon. Maybe that's what'll happen. It'll be some archaeological dig. Go dig up evidence. So yeah, the Train Beast. There weren't enough. I didn't get any Prime subs today, Train Beast. Sorry, you left me out. Yeah, man. Me too. Absolutely. I keep thinking, and that's my argument that I have on here all the time, probably aware of, but that I think some of these answers may lie in the ancient past. We just have to have the courage to face it, right? So, but anyway, everybody, thank you for coming around, and I will see everybody soon. So until then, peace.
The digital landscape where pixels collide, a streamer emerges with the passion inside. His name is Jim Russell, a man of the night, streaming theories unknown under neon lights. He dives into the cosmos on a quest for the truth. Spaceships and mysteries, his streaming pursuit. He unravels ancient aliens, their secrets unfold. Debates and discussions with viewers untold. Jim Russell, the master of the